Welcome into the Odds and Audibles podcast. I'm Matt Prehm, Erik Skopil, Jared Mack on the show. Also, make sure to check us out on YouTube. We are simulcasting, I guess you could say, of these podcasts now. You could watch us on YouTube, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Google, iTunes, whatever you use to listen to the podcast. Make sure to do that. And make sure, real quick, to subscribe to duckterritory.com, because right now, the season is here. We have games week 1, September 4th, Oregon versus Fresno State. All three of us will be there. Our game coverage is in full effect now, so you don't want to miss this 2021 football season. You can join for as low as $1 for your first month. All right, guys. Depth chart is out. First official depth chart of 2021 is out. First note I had, there are 17 oars listed on this depth chart. There are multiple position battles to be figured out. We'll dive into those down the road, but ultimately, I think we were all curious to know who would win the quarterback battle. Mario Cristobal announced that on Saturday that it would be Anthony Brown. And there is still some uncertainty of who that number 2 guy is. And we got some clarity of when they will hope to maybe make that decision by.
Depth chart still says or for the backup spot between all the freshmen. By the way, I'm going to pat myself on the back. Matt says 17 oars. Did you see? Okay, this is kind of this for those listening. Some of you might find this interesting. Some of you might not. I asked the site how many oars would be on the depth chart. Did you see what my response was?
Did you say 19?
17.
Ooh.
Oh.
Nailed it.
Ooh.
Nailed it.
You nailed it.
So
Can we get the lottery numbers too?
You're dialed in there, Eric.
Well, it comes down to depth chart oars.
Scopil
There's no better. Remember that. Depth chart oars. Putting that on my Twitter handle. No, but in terms of the quarterback at the backup spot, yeah, still no change there. We still don't have a name as like a for sure backup. What we do know is that they want to get this figured out. This is going to go into this week here. I asked specifically about, do they want to see game reps for these guys? And didn't get a clear answer because Mario made sure to point out that they're not thinking about playing backup quarterbacks because they expect Fresno State to be a very good team. Wish I would have asked that question slightly differently, not to give him the opportunity to do that and just use the second part of the question, which he ignored, which is what more do they need to see and when do they want to have a timeline? But alas, here we are. So yeah, I think the hope is that they have an idea going into the game, but I'm not sure if we're going to know one way or the other until we get there, because it's not like we're going to get an updated depth chart, and Mario's never going to actually. The joke we have.
That's a running joke here. This is a running joke.
Is he always, when he doesn't give us information, he goes, and I'll get to that to you guys very soon, and he's 0 for like a 3,000. Ever getting us anything. So it's a very hollow promise. I'm sure we'll learn at the game on Saturday, maybe, but like I don't know if we're going to know for sure until maybe next week depth chart, honestly.
It'd be a big shock, right, Jared, if a backup quarterback does not enter this game against Fresno State. Like if they need Anthony Brown all the way through. Like I understand UConn was shut out by Fresno State's defense, but UConn is worse than like half the FCS schools out there. Not to diminish anything that Fresno State did, but it'd be a big disappointment, right?
Oh, 100%. You don't want Anthony Brown to be in there all 4 quarters. Like he deserves to get out of there and get some rest, and then hopefully give either whoever the number 2 quarterback is some time and just some game action so they can really see what these guys are capable of. Because I think that's what Mario and company are probably waiting for, is just real live action. And you see it enough in camp and everything like that. But once it gets to a game with the crowd, I think we'll really be able to tell who has solidified that number 2 job. I still think it's going to end up being Ty Thompson, but we'll find out.
And
by the way, that was the question I was trying to ask Mario today that did not get an answer.
I love how you're trying to whisper that into
Keep over you, Matt. Getting closer.
Other notes on the depth chart. There are 3 true freshmen listed as a starter or co-starter on this depth chart. 3 true freshmen from the best class in school history, the 2021 recruiting class. I think that speaks to the ability to stack elite classes onto elite classes, because you could argue that there are 4 or 5 other guys on this team that would start as true freshmen 4 years ago, 5 years ago. for this Oregon football team. Those three that did get listed as co-starters or full-time starters, receiver Troy Franklin, tight end Maliki Matavao, and then punt returner Seven McGee. McGee is a third-string running back on this team in a three-way tie for that group, but he is listed as a co-starter at punt returner. Surprised it's only three, or is that right about right?
I don't think I'm like super surprised it's three. I mean, I was trying to think about, because we over the weekend, we should say, and I think this is good content for those who want to look at. We made predictions on which true freshmen would not redshirt, and I think that's a good story to go look at. I was confident it'd be a lot of guys. I don't know if, in thinking about that, because we went through the exercise and I was thinking about all these guys. I don't think I had too many other guys I expected could start.
Yeah.
So sort of about what we expected. Maybe the biggest surprise for me is Troy Franklin, no or. He's just a straight up starter at X. That just speaks to his development. And then the fact that I don't know if this is just alphabetical or not, but how about Isaiah Crocker above Devin Williams apparently at the X spot? That was pretty significant. And then just in terms of the freshmen we're talking about, kind of like the fact that they split the tight end position into an F and a Y tight end. So I think the F is more of your guy you're going to split out wide a little bit. That's where Spencer Webb and Terrence Ferguson are listed. Yeah. And the Y is more maybe kind of inline blockers. They'll do both, obviously, and that's where you have Matavaho, which Matt mentioned, DJ Johnson and Cam McCormick. So love seeing Seven McGee at punt returner. I think he's going to be really dynamic back there. Also listed, I think, with Micah Pittman.
Yeah, I think real quick, looking at it from a kick returner standpoint, Mikhail Wright and Chris Hudson are listed as the co-starters. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually Mikhail Wright is removed from that role. And then I also wouldn't be surprised if, from a pure perspective of, hey, let's prevent injuries, let's have McGee be the full-time punt returner if he can handle that, so that you don't have Pittman back there, risk of injury. I just think you've got freshmen, and it sounds cold, but some of these guys are going to be able to be out there, and if they get hurt, you can slide somebody else in. Whereas if you lose Mikhail Wright, you're in a tough spot.
I think it's a tough situation though, because I don't know if there's another player on the team who's more dynamic in that position, and you'd sure love to have that on.
What about Seven?
Maybe. I just haven't seen it. You know. I mean, we like Seven McGee a lot, but Mikhail Wright has 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, set up a game-winning touchdown with a long or field goal, I guess, against Washington State with a long return. We've seen him do it, and you'd certainly like to see him on the field and at least involved in as many areas as possible. Aside the possibility, again, the issue is you don't want to get him hurt. Right. And that's the only thing I would be wary of. I think if you're 100% certain he's not going to be hurt, which of course you can't be, he has to be out there as much as possible. You want him with the ball in his hands. He's so dynamic. But if it becomes a thing of you're concerned about that, or I think the thing Mario said was it was a wind deal in terms of he lost some wind because he was playing so many downs on defense and he was tired and had a hard time getting out there and trying to run the ball back 100 yards. That's the concern. That's one thing. But if it's just who's the most talented guy, he should be out there, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. He's hands down the best. I do think that Seven can do a decent job back there. I actually think Seven would be better as just a pure punt returner. I think his elusiveness and agility is better than Michael's, but Michael Wright's top end speed is probably the best on the team.
It's scary.
But, yeah, Matt, to answer your original question of did you expect any more freshmen to start? No, not yet. At least this is still just week 1 step chart. I could see a couple guys making a case later, but Troy Franklin has been that guy. And he's continuing to be that guy. Maliki Matavaho, he's been the best of the bigger tight ends, because Terrence Ferguson is the other freshman tight end, but he's 20 pounds lighter. Spencer Webb is listed as 20 pounds lighter on the depth chart, although in person it doesn't really seem like that. Yeah. But they definitely have a different type of skill set. Like Spencer Webb and Ferguson are people who could even stand up on the line. They don't even have to get down into it like in the tight end as like the 6th offensive lineman. But Maliki and then Seven, like I was saying, I think he can be dynamic in fielding kicks or punts, whatever it be, or even running halfback screens, maybe out in the slot every once in a while. But for now, those 3 freshmen, yeah, they deserve to be listed as a starter or, a potential starter down the road.
One point I want to just make real quick, and then we can keep going, Matt. Sorry, is just do we think I think Troy Franklin might be the Pac-12 Offensive Rookie of the Year, Freshman of the Year. We haven't really talked about it, but like he's going to be one of Oregon's starting receivers on a really high-profile offense, and if he wins, I could see him having a big year, and Oregon wins a lot of football games, and he gets a lot of postseason notoriety.
I'm trying to think, is there a freshman quarterback that could be starting somewhere across the conference? I don't think there is.
I don't know what year Colorado's starter might be like and maybe he wins because he's a red shirt.
But it's a deal where it's also like, okay, there could be a freshman that starts at quarterback somewhere else, but are they going to be good? Like, I don't think Colorado's quarterback is going to win freshman of the year just because he starts at the position. So that's a good question. Like, it's going to take, I mean, Troy Franklin's going to need to come out and like go for 800 yards receiving. I guess that's the question. Like, do you think Troy Franklin emerges as like your number one, number two, maybe I'm really pushing it here, like number three leading receiver? Like, it's almost got to be one or two on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the depth's going to like hurt him because they're not going to throw the ball like USC does 60 times a game. And then with the depth that Oregon has, they're just going to keep guys fresh all the time.
One thing I'll say is I have doubted Franklin a little bit throughout this. I never thought he'd be a day one starter. Looks like he's going to be that. I never thought he'd be as dynamic as he was in the spring game, and he was. So I'm not going to doubt the fact that he could go out and have a really fantastic season. He's a big-time recruit for a reason, and clearly has shown he can make some plays. I mean, my big surprise in this whole depth chart was that there's no Orr behind him at receiver. Yeah. I really thought that there'd be more, and there's not, and he clearly won this job outright.
Position battles yet to be decided. We already talked about quarterback. We kind of talked a little bit about the tight end spots, but right tackle is one in which we're still figuring out things. And Jared, you're going to be writing something on duckterritory.com about this. You've watched the offensive line the most out of all three of us here. Just how does this play out in your eyes?
Yeah, so on the chart, it's Stephen Jones is the starter, and then there's Orr, and it's Malasala. I don't want to butcher his last name, so I'm going to assume everybody knows who we're talking about. Eric, you got it?
Just call him Big Sala. There you go.
Big Sala. Big Sala is the Orr. Big Sala was kind of hurt during fall camp for portions of it, so he didn't get his time. But last year he played a lot. He was a starter for most games. I think I'm a little surprised to see Stephen Jones listed as the right tackle and not left tackle, because he'd been working a decent bit on both sides, and I thought he would just naturally kind of slide over to left tackle and Oregon would put George Moore at right. But this is how it's lined up. Again, it's the first week, so it might change. But yeah, I think that'll still be a positional battle over the course of the week. If Big Saul is healthy and Stephen Jones is healthy, I'd pay money to see that competition going on, because both those guys are extremely talented. But for the rest of the offensive line, I don't think anything is particularly out of what we expected. Jonathan Dennis, Mario Cristobal mentioned today that he's hurt and that he could be out a while, I believe was his terminology. So with Cristobal, that could be 2 weeks or it could be 3 months.
His career could be over. I mean,
who knows?
That would be a while.
That happened last year. I mean, there was a guy last year who was hurt and he'd be back soon, and then he medically retired. Now, obviously, we're joking in the wrong manner, and obviously, we hope Jonathan Dennis isn't back. But yeah, the uncertainty there is interesting. And Will linebacker, Drew Mathis, and Justin Flo both have oars. Kind of surprised by that. I was expecting Flo.
I think Flo is a starter, but like last year with this, I feel like Drew Mathis is just this is an annual thing with him. If he has eligibility next year, I'm sure they'll find a way to keep this going where he's just a starter, but we know he's not going to start because it's Drew and Justin, and everybody knows Justin Flo is arguably going to be, I don't know, one of the most talented linebackers to ever play at Oregon. I mean, like that's like hyperbole, but it doesn't feel like it. I mean, there's so much enthusiasm. The top rated linebacker recruit they've ever signed. But again, Drew Mathis, veteran guy, he's been around a little bit. He's played. He's probably like 6 years older than Justin. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit exaggerating it, but not too much. let's put it this way: he might be older than you, Jared. Would you be surprised if we did? I think he took a year off of junior college too.
He's probably older than me, yeah.
So, but the point I'm making is like, I'm not super surprised that they put it this way. I would be very surprised if the play on the field on Saturday backs up the fact that this is actually an open competition, or that there's really a push and a pull here. Because ultimately, flow's flow. We know what he is, or we think we know what he is. And if he's as advertised, he has to start. He has to play 85, 90% of your downs.
Two other positions on the defense that have battles they're going to play out into this week. The Sam linebacker spot, Mace Funa, Adrian Jackson. I don't think there's much of a surprise there. Boundary corner is the other one, which we knew about going in. Triquez Bridges, Dante Manning, whoever emerges there as a starter. The guy that doesn't will still play quite a bit. Maybe the biggest surprise, place kicker. Henry Cattleman is the second name on the list. Camden Lewis is the first, and they're both listed as co-starters.
This could get. I'm reacting the way I assume everyone in the fan base is reacting right now, where I put my hands on my head like, this isn't what we wanted to see. At the same time, Mario made the point that Lewis has had a fantastic fall, and that he's really challenged Henry Cattleman. We made the point before, Cameron Lewis could very easily got transferred, and he's still hanging around for a reason. And clearly part of that is he thinks he can win this job. So I'd love to be wrong, but I think kind of we know what Camden Lewis is right now, and he just hasn't been good enough. And maybe he's made huge strides, and maybe there's like some sort of mental block he's had to deal with, because everybody talks about how he's so much better in practice and then in games he sort of struggles. Maybe there's something he's been working through mentally, and he gets to a place here where the consistency he shows in practice follows through into the weekend. But I'll put it this way: if they get up into a situation against Fresno State and it's a 30 to, I don't know, any distance of field goal, and it's Camden Lewis instead of Henry Cattleman out there against Fresno State,
if he misses, that's the thing.
Yeah. I would just say, if he comes out above Cattleman and is the first kicker to kick, there won't be boos, but there are going to be people in the stands probably turning to the next door person saying, "What the hell are we doing?"
Yeah. And if he misses, that's where I feel like the fan base could really get bad.
Real quick.
Yeah. If he misses his first kick and it's over Henry Cattleman, that's where it gets dicey. And look, we're kind of being critical of a college kid, but like, I also feel I'm going to feel bad for him too at the same time. Like he's going to be put in that position, and if he misses, the fan base could be pretty harsh, unfortunately, on him, which is unfair. The things that will be said to him, but it's probably going to happen, unfortunately.
Well, and just to wrap up the Camden thing, from a personal level, having spoken to him a couple times in 19, really nice kid. And honestly, you could tell he was aware of all the outside noise. I think he was asked directly about it. And similar to what Ryan Walk said this past week, we spoke with him, kind of similar things where the fan base is maybe kind of hoping you're not out there. What's that like? Both of them gave kind of the same answer. You just have to block it out and focus on your own stuff. And for Camden, maybe that's taken place and he's going to take huge strides. I hope so. Again, I love every interaction I've had with him. He's a really nice kid, clearly cares a lot about this and the program, or else he wouldn't be here. So maybe I'm being too critical of him. I think just objectively, though, he's 12 for 18 as a field goal kicker and as long as 39 yards. And Henry Cattleman, I think, is 4 for 4 with a long of in the 40s. I think it's like 45. So it's just, from what we've seen in game, it's hard to really understand why you'd go that route. But maybe practice is telling us something totally different. I don't know. Real
quick, running back, we know who starts. They're co-starters, Travis Dye, CJ Verdell, Travis Dye. Who the third running back is still being decided as well. That's the norm.
Jared, was there one of the three? They're all freshmen here: Benson, Cardwell, McGee. Was there one of those guys that really stood out to you most?
McGee stood out, but I think his skill set isn't necessarily in line with what Oregon would like to do at the running back position. I think Byron Cardwell is the third guy, and I say that because he's built very similar to CJ Verdell. However, he's taller. He's listed at 6 feet. He's impressed so far during fall camp. He had 2 scores in the second scrimmage. He's a hard runner, but I think Trey Benson's another name to watch, but I just don't know if he's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
He hasn't been during fall camp, he said he was 95% healthy, which is getting there. But when you watch him run, it's just not like he's going 100%. And he had a terrible knee injury. He basically tore everything in his knee. He told us one day after practice. And I completely understand if the coaching staff is holding him off and not letting him get to 100 or not letting him go 100%. But for right now, I think Byron Cardwell is the first guy after Dye and Verdell to get a carry.
Just a couple thoughts on that. Do we think the order then is just alphabetical? Because Benson is listed ahead of Byron Cardwell and Seven McGee.
I
But
do.
then you look above it.
Could be.
I
Well,
think
they-
it's alphabetical.
I don't think so, because then you look right above it, unless they're really tipping their hand here, because then it's Ty Thompson, Jay Butterfield, Robbie Ashford right above it, and then you scroll down and you don't have to look very hard to realize it's not alphabetical order, because it's Matavaho, DJ Johnson, Cam McCormick. So
I'm thinking specifically just for running back.
maybe. I don't see any evidence of that. So I'm basing, I don't know, maybe I'm totally going nuts over here. I think Trey Benson's their first guy, and I think we haven't seen practice in about 10, 15 days or so, and I think a lot can change in that time. And Mario was asked to trade up about Trey Benson last week and gave, I would say, about as encouraging an answer about an injured player I've ever heard him give, and basically said he's not been a partial participant the last 10 days and he's really stood out. So I'm in if we're going to just jump in on who we think number 3 is, I'm fully in the Trey Benson camp. I'm entirely immersed physically in it. My body is soaked in it. I'm like a Han Solo in
Whoa,
carbon.
where are we going here?
Ooh. Okay.
I had a great line. You cut me off. I'm Han Solo in carbonite. I'm fully
I don't
immersed.
blame Matt for cutting you off.
I'm ready to go. So no, I think I go Benson over. Yeah.
Let's
Matt,
move.
who's your pick? We gotta cut this off. We're
I'll
1-1
go
right now.
7.
You gotta pick.
I'll go
Oh.
with 7.
I like it. We all want a different angle.
I think 7's ability, they've got kind of that power runner in Verdell. Dye's kind of a multi-talented guy. And then I think 7's the best home run hitter on the team. So I think you put your home run hitter as the third guy. So that's where I would land.